going to take a look at what could possibly be the world's smallest fully featured synth. So here's a small synth. It's the Otto Machines Dare Otto. Nice little 8-bit synth, and that's small. And then we have a Volca here, and that's even smaller. And then bringing in a pocket operator. They are absolutely tiny, as you can see. You know, it's not a fully featured synth, this, but it is a synth. In fact, that one's the rhythm machine, but hey ho. And here we have what I'm going to be looking at today, and this is the Nunomo QUN, or QUN, Q-U-N, and it really is tiny. So I don't have massive hands. This is a very small synth. So yeah, it's really minuscule. Here it is again compared to the Volca New Bass. Volca New Bass is a tiny synth, and the Nunomo QUN is even tinier. And before we get into it, I've already been editing a little bit of the footage already and realised it's sort of half an hour of just a big pair of hands pushing tiny buttons and twisting a single knob to get the sort of sound you'd expect to get out of any synth. So I've already edited this down, so just a bit like an Apple advert really. Sequences may have been shortened, so you won't be able to follow exactly what I'm doing if you've got one of these. But what I'm trying to get across is just how flexible this is, you know, considering the size of it, the amount of sort of modulation options and all the various functions. And for those of you who don't want to sit through the whole of this thing, here's a quick summary. Sound-wise, I found it's much easier to get sort of really aggressive and hard tones from this. The FM and Granular engines are fantastic, and the addition of the sequencer is a much more fully featured thing than you might expect. So if you do enjoy any of this, please hit subscribe if you haven't done so already, and maybe think about checking out my Patreon page as well. There's loads more reviews and demos on the way. So let's dive straight back in. So this is a virtual synth with everything programmed from scratch. From what I understand, it was initially designed to be a black box, so essentially a controllable unit that you accessed all the parameters via MIDI, which you can still do. Which means absolutely everything in here is accessible via controllers. Here's a list of MIDI CC values, and you can see here a huge list of numbers and parameters available. Plus there are controllers for Native Instruments Machine and Complete Control. So I've been having a bit of fun with this, but I suppose because it's got so many features and because it's a small company focusing on delivering the product, I did find the manual a bit confusing. It's got pretty much everything in it, but at first I found navigating the menus a little bit confusing. So I thought I'd make this little walkthrough, and I'm not going to go into every parameter here because there are so many, but hopefully it'll give a good overview of how it works and how to access the functions and how it all sounds. As I said, this is a fully featured monosynth, so let's see what it's got. It's got 2 oscillators, each with 5 shapes, 2 types of noise, FM and auxiliary inputs. It's got a multi-mode filter with low pass, high pass, band pass and notch, as well as 4-pole and 2-pole linear and non-linear modes. There are 3 separate assignable ADSR envelopes, with envelopes 3 and 4 sharing parameters. It's got an LFO with 6 shapes and 3 additional shape inputs. It's got built-in time-based effects, so a delay, 2 types of chorus and 2 types of flanger, a granular engine and 2 4-operator FM engines, as well as 3 clipping algorithms and a whole host of modulation routing. Plus, it's got a really pretty complex sequencer, and looking at this layout, you can get an idea about the flexibility of the sound engine and quite how large it would be if they started adding controllers to this tiny little panel here. So firstly, let's take a look at hooking it up. It's got an audio in and audio out. They're here, that's the in and that's the out. So let's hook up the audio out. And these can also input control voltages, which can be used to modulate loads of stuff in there, but you have to attenuate the voltage to a maximum of 1 to 1.5 volts rather than the 5 or 10 volts or whatever you're getting from your external gear. The MIDI is through a standard TR-SA adapters. That's these here. Let me just pick one of those up. Here we go. And this is the same as Korg use. I think Akai use them as well. So MIDI in and MIDI out. The MIDI out's really useful for saving patches if you want to save more than you've got on board here. Save via MIDI. But the sequencer doesn't send MIDI, at least not yet, but that may come in an update. The updates are coming pretty thick and fast at the minute. And you power it through this little USB here. So let's just power it up. go. And I've got that plugged into my computer, but you could use a power bank if you've got one. It's got a second USB port here as well, and this is used for either USB MIDI, which I haven't used as it sort of needs you to do some more setup on your computer. This is considered the serial port or something on the board itself, so you need to run some software on your computer. You also need to access this for firmware updates, which, as I say, are coming thick and fast, but for MIDI, I'm using this for now. And just a quick note on updating it, it comes with this cable here, which is, I don't know, what is that, micro mini USB or something? Can you see that? Let's have a look. But I've got a MacBook Pro that's got USB-C, so I've been trying to use this adapter, and that didn't work. So I tried to use this adapter, and that didn't work. And what I had to use in the end was a USB to mini cable. I don't know if you can see that. So I've been using this cable here, which is USB-C direct to this mini USB or whatever it is. And then all worked fine. And the latest software I've got at the minute is this 1.61. So that's what I'm going to be using today. But it's got a very limited interface, obviously. So let's take a look at how you navigate it. There are three main modes. You've got synth, sequencer, and sort of system settings and save and load. And these are accessed by these buttons down here, 1, 2, and 3. You then select the menu with this button here. So we can see you're getting a sort of menu selector there. And then you can flick through the menu using either these quick access buttons or by holding menu and then going through the different pages to the different sub-menus. There we go. So we can see we've got oscillator 1, let's hold that there, oscillator 2 menu, mix, envelope 1 and 2, oscillate switches, LFO, VCF, keyboard and other, FM configuration, and envelopes 3 and 4, plus some other bits and bobs as well. And don't worry about this too much, I'll go through it in more detail in a minute. So these buttons at the bottom of the board don't actually do what they say. It's not play, set, volume minus, and volume plus. These don't adjust the volume, which was quite confusing at first. Volume plus accesses the synth engine, which we're already on. If we press the play button, this has entered the sequencer menu now. So if we go through this, we've got different menu options there for the sequencer and for the granular synth. And then if we press set, we get into save and load banks, as well as the system settings as well. They've used a board that was actually designed for smart speakers, which is why we've got play, set, and volume plus and minus. And the volume minus button doesn't do anything. Usefully, the website's got this cheat sheet you can download, so you can easily see what's in each sub-menu. Although I've got to say, once I sort of got to grips with it, I didn't really have to use it. It's pretty simple once you get the hang of it. So now we've found our way around the menus, let's take a deeper look at the synth. So press volume plus and that puts us into synth mode or synth editing mode, or brings us to the synth menu. If we press that again, we're on the sort of top level of the synth menu. Press and hold and turn, and we can see oscillator 1, oscillator 2, all the stuff we saw before. So let's stay in oscillator 1, shall we? And we press 1 and we see the shape, pulse width, tune, octave, the mod tune, so how much the envelope generators affect the tuning, modulation width, how much the modulation affects the width, oscillator LFO tune, and LFO width amount as well. So just looking at that, we've got amplitude envelope generator 1 and modulation envelope generator 1. So we've got two different potential routines for inputting modulation, from amplitude to pitch, plus we've got the LFO in for pitch and the LFO in for the width as well. So there's quite a lot going on there already. So let's take a quick listen. That's the sawtooth sine, sample and hold. Not sure on the use for that, but it's a bit of like a bit of noise really, isn't it? And we've got square, triangle, we've got W noise, and we've got P noise. So one's white, that's white and pink obviously. And then there's the FM engine as well. Auxiliary inputs. So you can use the Granular engine as an input for oscillator 1. But take a look at that later. So we can modulate the shape. And that's the sawtooth. Modulate the square, obviously. Triangle. So tuning. That's only a fine tune, and you can only move it about 3 semitones plus or minus. But it means you can really fine tune those sort of detuned sounds when you've got 2 oscillators slightly beating. But you've got a wide tune mode on or off. So if we go back into the oscillator 1 tune, you've got huge range there, so you can get much larger intervals. Get back to 0, okay, octave. So there's a massive amount of range on these, isn't there? I've noticed in the literature, I've not tried it yet, but you can use the oscillators as a modulation source. So therefore, you can obviously use them as an LFO. If we go into the modulation pages now, you can see you've got A and M. A means that's the amplitude, and that's being modulated by envelope generator 1, as is M, which is the pitch. I don't know why it says M. It should say B, really. Well, from my perspective, I think, and it is definitely the pitch because I've just tried it. So we've got amplitude or pitch with envelope generator 1 on both of them, but we can change those in another menu. You can modulate the width, and you can modulate the tuning of the oscillator with the LFO. Let's try a little bit with the VCF then. Let's go and have a little listen to the filter. So number 7 is the filter, and here we have the cutoff. We can see it's modulated by envelope generator 1, and at this moment it's on 2-pole linear low pass. So as I say, it's got different modes. Let's go to the modes. Let's put it onto halfway. So we've got type, we've got low pass, band pass, high pass, and notch. Let's change the cutoff there. And if we go into this menu here, other, we can change the pole of the filter to 4-pole. And let's modulate that now with envelope generator 1 as well. So modulation cutoff. So all doing what you'd expect with a synth. It's just finding your way around these little sort of menu systems. So let's go to beyond the 8. We've got 2 more. We've got FM and we've got envelope 3, 4 and other. Let's take a listen to the FM, shall we? Let's go into the mix and turn the mix down. So just listen to oscillator 1, go into oscillator 1 now, and then take the shape to FM, and then go into, so you can hear that. Let's go into menu 9. This is the FM configuration, different algorithms. So it's got 2 algorithms and 4 operators. So, oh no, it's got more than that. The update has given me more algorithms. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 different FM algorithms. Wow, this is cool. Sort of worth the price of admission alone, this, isn't it? It's great. Let's go back into FM. So much to investigate there. That I've only just, that's the first time I've played with that, but wow. So it's really quite a powerful FM synth in there. Really want to hook it up now too, so I've got all access to all those knobs. Wow, really super impressed with that. Hope you are too. Have I mentioned it's got a duo mode as well? I'm not going to go into that as well, but it has got a duophonic mode, so you can play the two oscillators independently. So I think I've done enough there to demo the capabilities on the synth engine. You can see it's really super flexible. I'm going to have a little play with using the oscillators as LFOs. Maybe let's try a little bit of sort of FM, shall we? Because we can modulate the filter with, or we can modulate everything with everything, it seems. But we can modulate the filter with the oscillators as well. So let's just try that. Let's go in here, back into the filter. So VCF modulation select. Let's put it onto oscillator 2. Let's put oscillator 1 onto sawtooth again. So that's oscillator 2, isn't it? Modulating the frequency of the cutoff. Let's just change the shape. So we've got a sample and hold on oscillator 2 modulating the frequency of the cutoff. I was wondering earlier why you had sample and hold as an oscillator, and that's because it can be used as an LFO. Let's try something like a bit more high frequency, shall we? Let's go into the octave. Nice. Let's change the shape to a pulse. Let's get sort of much more dramatic effect to find. Pulse width. There are lots of things in here. Doesn't modulate when you get to too high frequencies on oscillator 2 or one of the oscillators, but it's doing a nice job of bringing some really interesting tones into this, isn't it? Some nice variation. I'm not showing it off to its best, but I think I've sort of demoed how it works and the sort of variations you can get and all the sort of modulation capabilities it's got. So let's move over to the sequencer, shall we? So let's first off, let's load in a sort of a more normal sounding tone. So go into set, which goes us to load. Let's load in bank 1. Let's load in 2. I might have something in this already, so it's still loading. Here we go. Let's go into the sequencer mode. So press play. Here we go. Go into the menu. Go to play. Press play. There we go. That's something I was messing around with yesterday. So we've got these 2 buttons here, and these will go through the different patterns we've got. Got 8 patterns. 8 patterns of 8 steps, but you can link the patterns so you can have up to 64 steps. Back to the menu and hold that and then go on or off. And what this does, I don't know if you can see that on the camera, hopefully you can. But each of these dots is a step. You can have the dot on or off. this is going on or off, and you can see it's only lighting up half of it so far. If I hold it down, I can have it the second half lit, which means it'll play the second half of that 1/8, so it's almost like a 16th. Or it'll be full, in which case it'll play the whole of that note. At the minute it's only playing 50% of it. Or turn it around again and you get into a sort of stripe. That's definitely not going to show up on the camera, but there's 3 stripes there, so that'll play triplets. So let's just play you that so you can hear it. So you can hear that plays 3 when I play that first note. So let's change that to playing the full note. So go back into So although it says it's 8 steps, it's actually 16 because each of these steps has 2 or 3 if you use triplets. So you could actually think of it as a, well, you can't really think of it as how many 24 steps, but it definitely has 16 steps in each of that, because here was playing 2 notes on the first one and it played the 2 notes by filling it in. So that's really interesting. We can run through the banks using these buttons here, as I showed earlier, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or we can go into this mode here, and we're playing bank 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's a nice way of being able to sort of do a performance. Menu item 5 is tune, so you go into each of these and you tune them up and down. So what have we got here now? What are we on? 8. Let's go to sequence play. Let's go to on and off. And there, just change the BPM factor from 1 to 2, so it's playing at twice the speed. Let's go in. What else have we got in here? You can also change the scale, so go back into this menu here. Different scales, so let's just play that and see what happens. So loads of really nice little interesting bits in there, aren't there? As I say, you can change it from 8 steps to how many steps you want. Step 8 all the way to 32. I did say 64 earlier, I was wrong, it's 32. So there's the BPM factor, velocity periods. I don't know what this is. The Velperdvol value, velocity something value. Oh, is that the velocity value of each key? Maybe, I don't know. Anyway, lots and lots of interesting bits and bobs in there, which brings us on to the Granular engine, which is number 8 on the menu. Starsky Car is playing Nunomo QUN. Nunomo QUN with Starsky Car. Starsky Car is playing Nunomo QUN. Nunomo QUN. Nunomo QUN. Which is pretty cool as well. So if we go into the Granular engine again, we'll see what we've done. Go to QUN. So there you go, a patch created using the Granular engine, using just my voice and then putting it through the sequencer with a little bit of delay. And the journey has only just begun. Bit of fun. So what are my overall thoughts? I think it's an impressive little synth and it looks pretty cool, very Instagrammable. All you need is a small power pack to start. You don't even need a computer. You don't need a MIDI input because you can play with the sequencer and just start tweaking with the synth on the fly. So if you've got hours to kill on a train or whatever, it's a great bit of fun. But I've been tending to get much more tougher sounds from it than rich and mellow things, and I think between the envelopes and the filter it lends itself to a more aggressive tone. It's not got what I call the refined tone, and you can hear some aliasing here and there, but then again, hooking up to a melody controller could give a completely different experience, I suppose. It's a bit fiddly, as you might expect, but it's not too hard to navigate once you sort of understand the menu system. So it's a fun little synth that sounds much bigger than it looks, and you can get some really nasty tones from that FM engine, and the Granular synth does add to the palette. So check it out if you get a chance. Nice little thing. And if you enjoyed this, please think about subscribing, and if you've subscribed already, or if you want to support the channel even more, maybe think about going over to my Patreon page where I've got about 6 hours worth of tutorials on how to program pretty much any synth. So, hope you enjoyed that. Hope it's of some use to somebody somewhere. Again, it took me ages to put together. So, until next time, see you soon.